Hello and welcome to another episode of Search Off the Record, a podcast coming to you from the Google search team, discussing all things search and maybe having some fun along the way. My name is John, and I'm joined today by Lizzie and Gary from the search relations team, of which I'm also a part of. Today, we're doing a year in review episode. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
So today we're recording in a studio, which is a lot of fun, but unfortunately we're missing Gary. Where are you today, Gary?
I'm right here. Thank you for asking.
Wait. Are you saying that you're missing him?
Yes.
Yes. In your heart.
Thank you for making this awkward. Appreciate it.
Yeah. That's why you invited me here, right? It's my special talent.
It's fine.
More awkward. Fantastic.
So today, like I mentioned, we're going to do a year in review, kind of looking back at the last year of the podcast and at some of the stuff the team has done. Maybe like thinking about the podcast first, do you have any special or favorite episodes that you really enjoyed doing or really enjoyed listening to?
I really liked the interview style episodes. It was loads of fun recording them and loads of fun listening back to them when they were processed and released. And I would want to do more of those, but maybe not with people.
What do you mean?
I don't know, like create a bot, like a GPT-3 bot that answers our questions, maybe.
We could do an episode that's interacting with the bot?
Yeah, or we create two bots and then they interact with each other. What can possibly go wrong?
We don't have to do the podcast anymore. We outsource the work.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. And we don't have to pay them.
What do you think, John?
I think that's a terrible idea, Gary. It's like...
Thank you.
I don't know. I'm missing your good ideas.
That is a burn. Huh? Wow.
Wait.
John, have you and Gary switched places?
Are you telling me something? Also, that's my line, right? Yeah.
Yeah. This is disconcerting. I don't know. Have you switched roles?
Okay, so more guest posts. That sounds like fun.
Guest posts?
Guest posts? Oh.
Did you say guest posts?
Guest recordings, I guess.
Thank you.
Okay, cool. But more people in the podcast to kind of chat with people who are outside of the team.
Yeah.
Where we can get, I guess, like more, I don't know, diverse perspectives about how things in the SEO world are going, or what aspect did you really like about having guests?
I mean, there are multiple aspects to it. One is that it's nice to highlight that there are people behind the role. I thought that's a really nice touch. And like, for example, hearing from Barry Schwartz about his life, that was really, really cool. Jennifer Slag, same thing. And then the diversity aspect, that's also really nice to bring focus on. And then all the technical stuff that we learned from these interview podcasts, that's also really eye-opening, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I feel like with those episodes particularly, it felt like we were learning more from them, sort of interviewing them about what their career was like and the subject matter that they know about. So it felt more fun because you came away like learning something new, I think.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Here I am nodding my head in a podcast, which doesn't seem to work very well.
Yeah. After like 50 episodes, I would have hoped that we stopped doing that, but well.
Oh, well. I also do the hand stuff, so whatever. I mean, like just waving my hands, not...
But that's signature.
Okay. Yeah. Well, cool. Okay. So having more guests, that means probably we'll reach out to more people outside, or are you looking for people to volunteer?
I mean, this past year, you selected people for a particular reason, I'm guessing, Gary? Like you had an idea to do like a series of 6, I think, throughout the year.
I think I just reached out to a bunch of people and then was waiting for replies.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have anything in particular. Basically, I generally know who are the SEOs that I kind of want to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not just SEOs, I guess, because Barry, for example, Barry Schwartz is not really an SEO, but all the people that we talk to, I know personally, and I really love chatting with them when we meet each other at conferences or after conferences or whatever. and I just thought that it would be nice to bring them on the podcast. Next year, we can do something else, perhaps. If I remember correctly, the planning is either in your hands or in Martin's hands, so you can knock yourself out with it.
I'm curious if we would like focus it differently. Like this past year, it was more of a highlight or spotlight on that person specifically, like their career path. Like it was more of a how did you get into SEO and like what are you doing that's
Right.
maybe specific to you in the industry? Would we change that in the next year? Because there are a couple of different approaches that you could take, like highlighting newcomers, for example, someone who's more fresh, or bringing someone who's I don't know, to talk about a specific topic instead of like highlighting their career.
Yeah. I mean, sounds good to me.
What do you think, John?
I think someone has to take it up and set up a plan and go for it. Like from my point of view, that sounds like a great idea. Having kind of a different focus on the people that are coming into the podcast. So pick something and run with it. I think from a general point of view about kind of the podcast within the context of everything that we do externally, like we can go in any direction.
How is the podcast doing, by the way?
It's doing surprisingly well, and I don't know why. We reached 1 million downloads this year, which is kind of crazy. And all of the downloads...
Wait.
Yeah,
wait,
1 million.
No, you
You want me to say it again?
like
1 million.
how? Wow.
I don't know. And all of the downloads were from this year. So we're at 1.3 million, and 1.1 is from this year alone, even though we've been doing it for like 2.5 years now.
Do you think it's a bot?
It's also weird because like most of the downloads are the transcripts. So is it like views on the transcripts themselves?
Oh, maybe it's crawlers.
Could be.
Search engines in your podcast. It's more likely than you think.
Oh, I had an epiphany.
The epiphany?
The epiphany. We could start a podcast and talk about search engines.
Like other search engines, not ours.
This is a terrible idea. Okay,
Okay.
moving on.
Moving on. Okay. What was the most surprising thing that happened this year from your point of view?
I mean, for me, it was that 15 megabyte thing. That completely...
Don't say it.
I'm going to say it again. The
No,
15.
No 15 megabytes.
15 megabits?
Bytes.
Bytes. I don't know. That whole thing just blew my mind because it was like such a subtle change that we made. Like, not subtle. Like, it was a small thing. One sentence, I think, just saying the limit. And we didn't think that this would be like of note, I guess.
Also, you said change. I think it's worth noting that it was a change on dev side.
Correct.
Basically on our publishing platform and not in how Googlebot works.
Correct.
Like, that's how Googlebot worked for the past, don't even know, 15 years or something. I don't think it was eye-opening because I don't think I would have done anything differently.
No.
It was just really, really surprising that everyone and my grandmother freaked out about that addition to developers.google.com/search. And I couldn't explain why.
I kind of think it's one of those things where it's hard to grasp what is 15 megabytes. And nowadays you think, well, my phone has like gigabytes of storage. So my web page might be 15 megabytes. I don't even know. And maybe that's kind of what's throwing people off. It's like some technical change that they found in documentation and they don't know if it actually affects their website because they never looked at it.
Well, for me, it was super weird.
Do you recall if, because we did a few changes there, like we wrote a blog post, but when we initially changed it, did we add that note that said, like, this is like just a change in the documentation. It's been functioning this way. I think that might have been like a turning point for us to start saying that more, just to head off people who are like, is this new in general? Like, no, this is a technical limit that has always been there. There's no change. Like, even though this is new to you, it has been functioning this way this whole time.
Yeah. I think there were a few things that came out of that fiasco that are positive. One is what you just mentioned, the updates page where we document more aggressively the things that we, document. And the other thing was that we started looking more into what else can we document, more obscure things.
Because you had too much fun with this? You
Kind of.
want to cause trouble?
Well, not necessarily trouble, but one thing that was very obvious that people were interested in this.
Mhm.
Like it's such a minor thing, and it affects so few pages. Like you can count on.
We did count how many pages this affected, and it was, like, such a small amount, like,
I don't remember the number,
ridiculous, like
but it was it was a super small number, but people were still interested, and then why not document more of these things, especially if they are not changing too often?
do you think part of it's, like, a number thing, like a fascination with, like, we publish some kind of number that's, like, a maximum or minimum, and that just, like
I mean, that's Barry.
Uh.
Barry's fascination.
numbers?
Otherwise, people are just like, it's a new thingy. It's shiny. Look.
People also seem to like when we publish the things that we don't support, because that's also been, like, something recent, that you've been doing to say, like, "These things don't work." Not just writing about the things that are supported, but also not supported, which is, I think, something that we were I don't know, like, if we don't mention it, like, why would it not like, we're just documenting by default, like, by the fact that it's not there.
Yeah.
Why do we have to just, like, go overkill and say it's not supported?
Yeah, implicitly not support.
Mhm.
I think that is way trickier than what we support, or documenting what we support, because, like, obviously we don't support probably millions of file extensions and content types. Like, for example, binary files generally are a no-go for search engines. But documenting those would be fairly impossible, I guess. The other thing is HTML element attributes, like rel attribute and class and name and whatnot. Like, we can't possibly document them all, especially with the custom attributes like data-star. Literally, there are virtually infinite number of attributes that we would need to document. We can't.
When do you think it's particularly beneficial to document what we don't support? Because it feels like it might be where we need to have a reference where people keep asking us, or we want to debunk something like keywords.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Thank you for answering your own question.
Okay. I'll just have my own podcast.
Cool. So what other things kind of surprised you this year? So on the one hand, kind of giving more information, I think that feels unsurprising that people really like that. And also telling them, like, things that don't work. Anything else that kind of stood out from your point of view?
I mean, I didn't anticipate that we would be kind of moving over to Mastodon.
Oh.
If you had asked us, like, at the beginning of the year, like, would we be on Twitter or not? I don't know. Did you anticipate that, John? Did that surprise you?
I thought it was kind of surprising. Yeah. I mean, it's at least at the moment, we don't have the official account on Mastodon, but a bunch of us are more active there now with all of the changes around Twitter. So I don't know how that will evolve by the time this podcast actually comes out, but we'll see. I think it's cool to kind of put yourself into a different mindset when it comes to some of these social media things, because they're like different philosophies around it, and it makes you kind of recognize the things that you almost kind of like took for granted with the old setup. And it's like lots of things are different on Mastodon. I don't know. Some of them are probably good. Some of them might not be as good as what we had before. I don't know. We'll see how it pans out.
Is Mastodon one of those Web3 things?
Web3 things. I don't know. Like I mean, I don't think it uses blockchains or anything weird like that. I think what's interesting about it is it's built on open standards, so anyone can build something around that or create bots or weird things. So that's kind of cool compared to Twitter, where it's a lot more locked down. So it's almost like going back to the time of RSS feeds and things like that.
We could just launch a Google Reader sort of thing.
Okay.
$1 million idea.
Go for it, Gary.
Maybe not.
Cool. So last year I saw we did a podcast where we were like, oh, well, this is what is gonna happen in 2022. I took a look at the transcript, and there are a bunch of things in there. What do you think? Did we kind of do what we wanted to do, or what we had almost like the idea that might happen?
Yeah.
Do you remember, Gary?
Well, so one thing that we failed at is that JavaScript is still alive and happy.
Oh, did you say that you wanted to kill it? Like at the beginning of the year?
I didn't. I would never say that.
Oh, but
I
would
mean,
you insinuate?
that allegation is ludicrous.
Hmm.
It's how can you say that even? Well, maybe I was hoping that something happens to JavaScript. I don't know, like a bus hits it or something. It didn't happen. So that's sad. Events, in-person events are back.
What?
Yes, I went to one.
So you're back to hugging people again?
What do you mean again?
Oh, they're hugging you.
No, people are not hugging me. I have a resting grumpy face, so I repel people.
Hmm.
It's nice.
So you're going to events and then you're all alone, or like how does this play out?
Yeah, sure. Only at events I'm all alone. No, but really, like going back to events, that was such a fantastic change, and I really like it. I went to one conference so far, I think, and we had hallway discussions and we had coffee discussions, and I got lots of ideas, exactly what I was missing. I'm not saying it's good ideas, but it's ideas. For example, I'm going back to parachuting. That was one of the ideas.
Oh no. That sounds like a weird discussion. It's like, Gary, you should jump out of planes more.
Have you considered? Also.
I mean, that's not a new thing. I just stopped a few years. No, but I really feel that these conferences, the in-person conferences, somehow stimulate brain in such a way that you get more ideas to develop, and that is really, really welcome, because for 2 years I was working on docs, and it was very nice. Oh wait, Lizzie is here.
What are you saying?
It was fantastic. Best experience of my life.
Okay, so you're happy to meet people again, chat with them in person. Cool. I think we should have more of these events as well, and so I definitely go to more. It's I always find that you get different kinds of feedback when you talk with people in person versus when you do emails or even video calls.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people feel more comfortable sharing in a one-on-one than like in front of a group. If they can speak to you in the hallway, it's a much different vibe than in front of like ask you a question or something, Q&A after a session. It's sort of,
Yeah.
you generalize it so that it's okay for everyone else who's listening. But if you want to get a specific thing or tell you something specific feedback, there's a little bit more openness, I think.
And speaking of docs, we published docs.
We did. We had like a huge project that landed in October, I think. We got rid of webmasters like completely. That was the last icing on the cake.
Wait, can you rephrase that, because it sounded ominous?
We got rid of webmasters. We had one document still left over from our rebrand that still had the word webmasters in it. And that is now gone. Wait, that's still not a good rephrasing, I think.
No.
It's probably worse. You want to take a shot?
No.
No?
I like how you're trying.
I'm like drowning over here. You're just going to keep letting me flounder.
Yeah, legal will have a call with you, but
Right. So Webmaster Guidelines has been around for how long? 20 years.
20 years.
Long time. And it's had the same name for 20 years, and most of the same points, like the core of the document, has been the same for this whole time. But we've also grown as a site. So we've not wanted to touch that document. We've published other best practices and just kind of grown beyond that.
I think my problem with the old webmaster guidelines was that we kept adding stuff to it that was not necessarily the thing that people should focus on when they start a site, for example. Like, yes, it's nice to have, for example, a speedy site, and it's nice to be on HTTPS, but it's not an absolute must.
Yeah.
But then not spreading spam, that's kind of like an absolute must. And having your site reachable by Googlebot, that's an absolute must. And weeding these things out, basically just having those, I think, 10 points at the end, the best practices.
Key best practices, yeah.
Key best practices. That was also a good exercise for us.
Yeah.
Like when we were sitting in a meeting room and then we were trying to rank those different points that we have onesie on our site. That was a good exercise for us, I think.
Yeah, we looked at all the points to sort of evaluate what is actually important and what are the main things that you need to do, because we sort of started publishing additional documents and then not mentioning them, things that should be mentioned potentially in the webmaster guidelines. So we sort of ranked them like priority 0 is like you must do. The next one is like really important, impactful for most sites, and then 2, nice to have if you can do it, if you can get around to it. And that sort of set the direction for what we would put in our new guidelines, I guess. But even the word guidelines, we had a problem with because, as you were mentioning, there are requirements and policies that are like, you need to do this, or if you violate this, then like this is a different kind of criteria, I think, than the key best practices and how we were referring to the webmaster guidelines before. Like if you violate this, then you can't appear in this other thing was maybe too intense for the stuff that's in there, that was in there. So like have a speedy site. Like how do you violate that?
Yeah, I'm so glad that we were able to make some changes there. It felt like over time that document had just grown and grown, and everyone was afraid to touch it because it's like such an established piece of content. And now I feel something that's a little bit more alive and dynamic, and where we could make changes if we recognize, well, actually, this is a big new topic with regards to spam, or maybe there are different requirements or different key best practices. It feels like a lot more approachable now. That's super cool.
Yeah, that's one thing that I like about it the most, that it's more modular.
Mm-hmm.
So we can separate things and we can say that don't violate our spam policies, for example, versus don't violate our webmaster guidelines, which was, as Lizzi said, was kind of stupid.
Yeah.
Because it was like, come on, like how do you violate a speedy sites thing?
Or like not making it accessible to Googlebot. Like that's not a thing that you violate. It's just like a thing that you either do, like we can access the page or we can't. Like what do you mean violate? Like
right. And then going back to ranking the different things that we have on onesie, that was also interesting that when we started ranking it, like what are the absolute musts? And then we came up with 3.
Yeah.
Like only 3 things that are absolute must from technical perspective. And that was kind of surprising. Like I never actually thought about it before, like how many things you have to actually absolutely do to your site to appear in, or have a chance to appear in search engines. And then it ends up being 3, like just 3 things. And they are basically things that by default any site does.
Yeah. I think that makes it more approachable as well. It's not like, oh, here's this like document that we hand you that has like 30 bullet points in it. It's just 3 things that are pretty normal.
Yeah, good change. Would not do it again.
We should do an episode talking about what we're going to do for next year, but not today. Whew. Anyway.
Why? Wait, why?
Because it's time for the outro.
Oh.
Dun, dun, dun.
Okay, fine.
Thank you both for joining us here, and all of the listeners as well. That's it for this episode. In the next episode of Search Off the Record, we'll be starting the year by checking out the Search Console Help Center with our other tech writer, Josh Cohen. We've been having fun with these podcast episodes, and I hope you, the listener, have been finding them both entertaining and insightful as well. Feel free to drop me a note on Twitter or chat with us at one of the next events that we go to if you have any thoughts. And, of course, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you, and goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.